Hi everyone, this is a Thoughtful Thursday episode. Um, so, welcome to Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen, and for this Thoughtful Thursday, one thing that had me thinking pretty much, I was thinking all day, partially because this morning while I was in the gym, I was pretty much practicing my walking, and sure, it has improved. Um, and Something else that, of course, I've been doing is practicing walking using, a rollator and um, just pretty much seeing what impacts my walking a lot better. And the funny part is, while using the rollator, uh, it I walk better with it, and then for a little while after using it, it's actually very funny. And that got me thinking, like, what is that, if there was some way that you could maybe build a contraption that would definitely improve any of your symptoms. And this one, I'm definitely talking to people who have maybe autoimmune conditions, maybe might have MS, might have other conditions that impact their motor skills, especially their mobility. What if there was a certain thing that you think that if there is a certain thing that you think, if you could invent, um, how would it change your life? So for me, one thing, of course, I do realize that I do need some sort of grip, to feel a little more stable while I walk. Generally, one thing I do notice is that if someone holds me um, right over here, or over here, I tend to suddenly stand up a little straighter. I tend to walk a lot faster, and this is me without using any additional things. No, no substances even. So I wanted to, ask you, what might be that one thing? So for me, that one invention would maybe be, um, maybe a grip right around this area, like right around the mid upper arm, and it would just feel like someone was holding me over here, so that I just subconsciously feel that, okay, someone's holding me, and I would just magically stand up a lot better and walk a lot better as a result. So I think that would be sort of my invention that I would create. Now, um, saying all of this, I know that that might not always be the case, but one thing I also do is, if I kind of feel like I'm holding someone's hand, if I don't exactly turn my um, hand into a fist, but just loosely hold it as if I'm holding, I'm holding, let's say, a walking stick, or even the grips of the rollator. I don't even think I'm pronouncing it correctly if I think about it, but if I do it, sometimes I do end up walking better, because I'm like just imagining that sort of exists. And so even having sort of like hand grips that have something that I can hold on to, and somehow that just makes me like think that I'm doing this one thing, that I'm holding on to something, and that is giving me the support. I would definitely think, because one thing I tend to find is a lot of the issue, the anxiety that I do end up feeling about walking, balancing, standing, and of course not letting my knees give away. A lot of it has to deal with what's maybe in my head, right? Maybe it's definitely a little bit of psychological onset, and because there has been one or maybe two or maybe considering 1,000 instances where it has happened in the past, it just pretty much builds up and it just snowballs into something a lot bigger in my head, and I suddenly turn a very small incident into a much bigger thing than it can be, than it really is. So what is your thought on that? And if you do have if you thought of certain inventions that you can create that maybe makes your life a little better, what can they be, right? I definitely feel like maybe something that kind of grips my upper arm, making it feel like someone's holding my hand, or someone's holding my arm, or maybe even a small grip for my hands so that it feels a little bit like I'm holding a walking stick or any other walking aid, so that I'm walking a little better. um, those are two things that I've thought of, and so I definitely want to know what are some of your what are some inventions that you have thought in your head that is obviously imagining um, consequences that are a lot worse than what they end up being, but even then it's always better to be on the safer side. So yeah, please do provide your input, please provide your feedback, and please comment so that we can actually start a conversation and pretty much engage the community in um, discussing these kinds of things. And so this has been this episode of Thoughtful Thursday. If you think that there are things that could maybe help you out or maybe even help me out, do share that, because it would always I would always like to discuss these kinds of things with someone who has um, who kind of organizes some of their issues with a different priority, right? What might be their biggest priority, whether it's their vision, whether it's another sense, whether it's walking, balancing, use of your hands, limbs in general, being able to be flexible. There are a whole host of things that we can discuss. We can definitely see what everyone's priorities are when it comes to making their um, you know MS diagnosis and prognosis a little better, right? Making the disease a little better, a little easier to handle. So yeah, do share your insights. I mean, I would love to engage in this conversation, and I'm sure we both would um, gain a mutual understanding of, okay, these are what our priorities are when we have a medical condition like this. Thanks everyone, and like I said, this is Naren. Thanks for checking in on Naren's Life Balance. Bye.